Good.
Yep, should be good to go. Let's give this one more try on the Facebook page. Cool. Good to go. Testing.
Yay.
1, 2, 3. Cool. Good to go. Testing.
We're good. You can hear me?
Yep.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Casu. This is Webb, as if you didn't know her already. This is going to be a live podcast recording of the Brute Strength podcast. We're going to do it live here, answer a few questions at the end, and then in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll put it up on iTunes and Stitcher and all of that kind of stuff. Ready to roll? Alrighty.
Ready, let's do it.
Hey, this is Mike Casu, and you're listening to the Brute Strength podcast. My guest today is Webb. Cara, thank you so much for making some time to do this for me. I know your life is crazier than ever. You just won the games. You're starting a gym. You bought a house, and yet you're here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super pumped. Adi has had the best things to say about you over the course of the past year, and so I'm really excited to connect. In our emails back and forth while we were setting this up, one thing that you said, and I think this is a direct quote, you told me that in my eyes, my greatest achievements this year had nothing to do with my placing. That was just a cool reflection of the hard work. So on this show, I want to talk about that attitude and how it not only benefited your entire life, but led to your best performance of your life. I want to talk about the challenges that you went through over the course of the year, what changed as a result of those challenges in your life, your relationships, your training, etc. And then finally talk about what everyone already knows about, which is the amazing year at the games that you had. So let's start out with kind of what led up to the games. What was going on in your life last year? What are some of the challenges that you encountered?
You know what, it's so funny. I heard so many people say last year that 2016 was the year of everything was kind of getting turned upside down. Things were ending and, just going crazy. And I remember it was sort of like a general consensus on social media and things like that about how much it was changing. It was just one of those years. And that was definitely the case for me. I had, that's probably something that I didn't really intend on talking about. And I thought it'd be something that would just come at the right time, because I tend to keep my personal life quite personal, and I think that's important. But what happened in 2016 was definitely something that really did contribute to what happened at my games, for 2017. And, starting from a marriage breakup, which was huge, which is always, something that is not something that you plan, that's for sure. And it's hard. It's just hard. From that, that was kind of the start of it. I had a trip away, and I had this moment where I was around these amazing people, and we were doing things for other people, sort of like giving back, if you like. And I sort of had this moment, I'm hanging out with these amazing people, and I sort of realized, I just had this moment that the way I was living was not true to me, and that when I was away and I was getting involved in this project, that I wasn't myself, and I wasn't happy with how I was living my life, essentially, for lack of a better expression. And I just knew that it wasn't right, and I knew that my relationship wasn't right, and that I needed to do something, because when I was away, I realized that I was being myself that I hadn't been at home. And I pretty much came home and turned everything upside down. It's like I could see things clearly for the first time in a really long time. And it's so difficult to explain, but the way I kind of explained it is like I just had my head down, just working, just kind of getting things done and training really hard and moving through life and just plodding along. And all of a sudden I looked up and I didn't realize how, like, I didn't know where I was or how I got here. And I pretty much started to have a really good look at what was going on in my life and what wasn't right and what didn't feel right, and started to have some really difficult conversations and really look myself in the mirror and see who I was and what I needed to do and what was true to me, and, be really honest with yourself, which is quite difficult to do. As a result, obviously aside from the relationship breakdown, in my personal life, that ended up unfortunately being who I am, and people liking to talk about people that they see. It ended up being a much more difficult situation than it needed to be, and something that ended up spilling over into my gym, my training, and a whole lot of other relationships that were really important to me. And that was really, really hard. So, not only was I kind of dealing with that, with the actual relationship breakdown in my personal life, but then the way that other people's opinions and judgments, were then affecting me, and how they felt they needed, how they felt compelled to push that onto me, and to try and keep pushing through and doing what was true to me, with everyone kind of doing that, and people that were really important to me and people that I trusted. So in the process, I lost friends, I lost relationships, I ended up leaving my gym, and kind of just started from scratch. And this was all, it was really, really drawn out, and I dealt with it for a really long time, trying to make it the best that I possibly could. And, in the end, it was only a few months out from the games where I kind of made the decision that I needed to walk away, and I needed to do what was right for me and what was right for my health, because that had suffered. And
your mental health?
Yeah, mental health, but it became physical health. Wow. Like I had started, like little things, I had started holding weight and fluid, and, the stress that was going through my body, I couldn't sleep, and, then my training was affected. And this is all, in game season. I was like, I can't do this. I've worked way too hard. I've come too far to let something like this affect me so much that, I just couldn't even function on a day-to-day basis, and trying to make all the right choices was still not working. And I realized that there were toxic relationships, and I was in a toxic space. And sometimes when you decide to rip that Band-Aid off, and you kind of go like, I can't do this anymore and I need to do what's right for me, people take that. They take that as though you're kind of like stomping on them in the process. And everything I did was with good intentions, and I tried to maintain good relationships, but ended up with some backlash from it. It ended up being the best thing that I ever did. And, all I remember talking to my mom, and she said to me, just promise me no matter what you do, that you will go with your gut instinct and you will not make a single choice based off anybody else's judgment. She's like, be a good person and do the right thing. But ultimately you need to listen to your gut, and you need to do the, you trust that you will do the right thing and that you're a good person. Mm-hmm. And if you have good intentions, then, that's going to show through and good things are going to happen in the end. But you kind of have to deal with the rubbish first, before you can get the good stuff, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it was huge. It was huge. I ended up asking some friends to help me out. I got in contact with Dan Bailey, and, very last minute, and as a good friend and a part of my Progenics family, I kind of called on them when I needed them. I needed to lean on someone, and they came to, very quickly and said, yeah, we'll help you out. And I just took a massive risk, and I thought, this might be the worst decision I've ever made, and I could totally stuff up my games endeavor, but I know that it will at least be my mistake, and at least I will go in happy. And that was way more valuable to me, to get rid of that stress, to be healthy, and to go in and go, you know what, I'm just going to do it my way and what feels right to me. And if I come dead last at the CrossFit Games, then I'll deal with that, and that's going to be okay. But at least I know that I've tried something different, and I've done it for the right reasons, to just be a happier, better person.
Well, first off, thank you for sharing all that. I really appreciate it. So that moment where you kind of woke up, right? It sounds like maybe a year ago, whatever this started, you weren't necessarily aware that there was anything wrong, right? You were so focused on what you were doing, getting things done, training, etc., that you weren't aware that there was anything going on. And I think everyone can relate to that on some degree at some point in their life. What specifically about that experience where it sounds like you were doing some service work or helping others, what about that experience do you think really woke you up?
You know what, I think, what we were doing was like just putting ourselves aside. It definitely actually forced me to realize that I don't do enough for other people. So that definitely was a good, valuable lesson. But I was here, in this really positive environment and using my time and my experience. And I was in this environment where it didn't matter who I was. It didn't matter that I was Webb and I was a CrossFit Games athlete or whatever. I was using that to a degree. But I became this person that these young people were looking up to, and something that I could just get involved in and walk around without shoes on and, just have fun hanging out with these amazing people. And these kids, like, I guess they kind of taught me that there were more important things, and all they were trying to achieve is this level of happiness, and the most important thing to them was staying out of trouble, having some sort of faith and being kind to each other and, just living this happy, really, really simple life. And it's so funny because I went there to try and, to offer them something, and I feel like selfishly I got so much in return because I realized what was really important. And these kids, all the best part of their day was going into this gym and training and having a dance, and they weren't wearing shoes, and it was keeping them out of trouble, and was doing good things, and they were just sitting down and eating together, and it was so incredibly simple, and it made me so happy, that simplicity, and seeing what they valued. And I realized that I was valuing the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And that's where I was forced to internalize and have a look at what was going to help me achieve that same feeling that they had. And what I was doing and who I was around was not doing that. And I was around those people and in those relationships for the wrong reasons.
That's amazing. It sounds like perfect timing for you.
It was very unexpected, but I've always been the believer that you just you have to be open to things finding you. And as long as you're open to, I guess, what the universe is going to bring you, then, you will see it. Like, and if I just try and be open, I will see it. And I did. I couldn't believe it. Like, it definitely caught me off guard, and I knew something was up, and I knew things were about to change in an instant. Right.
Wow. So you're a professional athlete, and all of a sudden you have these huge things going on. You're going through a divorce. There's a ton of tension and some very close relationships outside of your marriage. That alone is enough to throw anyone into chaos, right? Where did your training and your the thought of competing fit into all of this?
Like at the time, especially because my health was struggling, I because of the stress, and that was all it was. It was just the pure stress and exhaustion that was affecting that. Training did become affected. Everything became affected. All I kept thinking was I just needed to just work through it, I guess, one day at a time. But I had come so far in the year that I didn't want to waste this opportunity. I just know that, one day the CrossFit Games is not going to be there. And for me, it just is, it's not my entire world, the CrossFit Games itself. It's about what I do and what I dedicate myself to all year round. And in the end, I wasn't going to let other people take that away from me, and how hard I'd work and how I dedicated myself. This was just a different kind of dedication and a different kind of hard work that I was going to have to put in and maneuver myself around in order to be able to show up to the CrossFit Games and do well, I guess. But it was very constant. It was very exhausting. And
let me stop you there. That reaction to adversity, is that surprising to you that you had that reaction, or is that just how you would always react to adversity?
I definitely get there in the end. I will come around and will have that reaction to adversity eventually. Sometimes not instantly, you know, it always takes, there is definitely a process with overcoming these things. And, you know, sometimes the first instinct is, you know, you can let it hit you and take you down a little bit temporarily. But I've always been the kind of person that I truly believe, hand on my heart, that everything happens for a reason. And if there's anything that being a professional athlete, or just an athlete in general, someone who works out and, you know, works hard every single day in the gym and dedicating myself to the things outside the gym, is that it teaches you that certain sense of work ethic, and that you understand that there are adversities. If you want things to be good, they don't just come. And if you, I guess, keep yourself open and just wait for it and keep working hard, it's going to come good in the end. You just have to, you know, process that part at the first and then look for the reason. The reason will find you eventually. It might be one day, it might be 2 years, I don't know. But I just know that it's going to come eventually, and something good's going to come from it if I'm open to learning the lesson. And right. I guess I just tried to keep telling myself that, and the good people that stood by my side through all of it, they kept reminding me of that, and you need that as well. I definitely didn't do it on my own. And one of the beauties about cutting out toxic elements of your life is that the really good people and the really good things show. You just value them so much more, and then that helps get you through that adversity, I guess. And right. I definitely can't take credit for it myself. I needed some people to pick me up a few times. But if you can look for it, it's going to be there. It's just a matter of time.
I love that. One thing that Adi and I have been talking about a lot lately too is sometimes we spend so much time trying to figure out the cause of a problem or the reason we're not achieving some kind of goal, rather than mm-hmm. just taking action toward the goal, right? We spend so much energy, a lot of time negative energy, you know, feeling guilty or even shameful about why X happened, rather than just doing the thing that gets us closer to, you know, a positive state or
yeah.
reaching our goal.
Yeah.
So you had all of these challenges. You had this kind of awakening, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want to talk about how you use that to propel you to having your best finish ever. So in your training, it sounds like the biggest thing that changed is your mindset, right? You yeah. awoke and realized, hey, I'm not living in line with my values, if you will, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
With the person who like that I am. How did that play into your mindset regarding training, as well as anything else mindset wise that changed for you during related to training throughout this process?
Yeah, I think there were so many different things, and a huge part of it, as soon as you realize that you're not living true to yourself, essentially, you're not living a life that is true to yourself, you have to look at yourself and see what actually needs to be done. But the best thing that I learned in that process was I needed to trust myself and understand that I was doing things for the right reasons. And as soon as I learned to trust myself, I started to, I guess, grow a little bit more and look at things a little bit differently, and understand that sometimes things don't go by the rule book, and there's this like life rule book that everyone thinks that they have to follow, but everybody's book is a little different. And you just, I say it a lot, but you just have to keep an open mind. And I learned a lot about myself and what I was actually capable of and what I was able to overcome. I definitely have to give credit to my partner now. He said something to me, we've been friends for years, and he said to me, like, he would say often, something would happen and it would seem really tricky, and I'd be like, oh, you know, this is a little bit hard, and he would say, it's okay, it's no big deal, we'll just do this. And all I ever hear in my mind now is, it's okay, it's no big deal. Mm-hmm. Like, you just do it. Like, you just get it done and you move forward. And it's funny, like, that was just this like one single thing that was just nothing, and it's just all I think about. It's like, just do the task, just move forward. Like, it's okay, just do it one step at a time. Like, keep just chipping away. And then over time, I just realized like something could happen and it wasn't a big deal. And I'd been living in this world where everything was like overwhelming and I was a little bit precious, and just allowed myself to be a little bit more human. And then carrying that into the season, into my training and everything that I did, it was just like, just do what I can do. Like, take the pressure off, be a good person, work hard. Don't look for, like you were saying before, like when you say like, you know, focusing on why you can't do things or what went wrong, and start to look forward at like, how do I make the most of this, or how do I live a good life? What do I need to do now? And I did become very task focused. Like, what do I need to do to achieve this? And it was funny, that was something that I carried into my games experiences, just to be nicer, be a better person, try and be more patient, and be task focused. Like, look to the finish line. I've said it 1,000 times. Look to the finish line and just do what needs to be done between here and there. You know, like, and just visualize that as much as I can.
And how do you think that compares to how you used to think about training and competition?
I used to overthink training and competition beforehand. It was so like, things had to be a certain way. Do this many reps, do this and that, like everything, it should be this. I used to say, like, I should be able to do this and I should be able to do that. And then I wrote these little notes in my phone that I would read every day before I would do a workout. And one of the things was, there's no such thing as shoulds. There's only one, and that's that I should do my best. Like, you know, that I should do whatever. If I am capable of doing something that day, then I will do it. So if I have the ability to do better, then I will do it. But there's no such thing as I should be able to lift this, or I should be able to do this in that time. It has to be more effort-based. And as long as I can be honest with myself and know that I like, it just seems so corny. Like, I don't know how to say it, but like, if you actually do your best and you can look at yourself in the mirror and go, yes, that was all I had today, it is so much more satisfying, and then good things happen. If you go by feeling and you know, I would have gone into the games previously and gone, I'm going to do this way and this way, and it would have been so calculated and had to be a certain way, whereas I learned to trust my instinct and trust my body and trust my mind. And then, you know, I found this whole new athletic zone, like this mental capacity that I didn't have access to beforehand. Wow. And it was this, it's like, you know, athletes talk about being in the zone, and I think I felt it like for the first time, where I was so happy and content in myself and in the relationships that I have now and in my life in general, by just simply doing things that felt true to me, that competing at the CrossFit Games was easy. You know, like, doing that was easy. I just carried the exact same thing into competition. And when I trust myself, I trust the people around me, I know that they have my best intentions, you know, in mind, and I'm just going to go by feeling. I went out into workouts with no plan whatsoever. You know, I just went, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to see. I've got a general idea. I'm just going to see what my body has to give me. And I'm going to see, the only thing I'm going to try and do is keep my mind sharp, and my body's going to follow.
This is like textbook focusing on the process, right? You're talking about focusing, like shifting to focusing on effort. It's like, literally, what are we capable of in a training session? Our very best. That's as much as we can possibly do. It. The shoulds, the shouldn'ts, the I have tos, you know, when we think we have to hit a certain number or time, all that can possibly do is we can either do our best or less than that. But if we focus on just doing our best, then, like you said, it's so much more satisfying, and it's completely inside of our control, right? It's inside of our control to focus on our effort, our attitude, as you're talking about. And over the course of, you know, days, weeks, months, a training season, how much more intensity have you brought to your entire training?
So much more. It becomes, see, the thing is, like, when you do it once, it becomes contagious. And then when it becomes contagious, you're doing it repetitively, and it's now a habit. You know, that good feeling that you get, you know, that feeling like it's the equivalent of if you give someone a gift and you know that they're going to love it, and you sit there and you watch them open that gift and they absolutely just love it, and you feel so good because you just helped them achieve that feeling. It's like that. So you throw yourself into this workout entirely, or into training or whatever it is that day, and you know, hand on your heart, that you just did the best you could and put everything in. And you're like, man, this just feels so good. Like I just actually did my best. My head didn't get in the way. I didn't care what happened. I actually just like kept my shit together. Like I was good. And then you chase that feeling again. It becomes contagious because it feels so good. And then you just do it over and over and over again, and it just becomes a habit. And that's for me, the CrossFit Games became like that. It was like one workout. You know, the first event, I just did me. I didn't worry about anyone else. I was like, what do I need to do? How can I push? Like, is that too much? Is this smart? What was I doing? Just focusing and just really staying in tune with me. And then I'm like, hey, that actually worked. That was, I did really well in that. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Hey, the same thing happens. Turns out I'm just doing the best and focusing on one thing at a time. And then when you add all of these best together, you're second in the world. Like, it's awesome. And that's just a cool little bonus. And then, like, afterwards, you know, for training, I'm not training too crazy right now, but the motivation that I have for that, to start up and to carry that into a season of training, you know, where, you know, training is hard. Training is the bad stuff. The games is the fun stuff. That's where you get to go and play. But, you know, the training is the, you know, the day in, day out, the, you know, the real struggle. To put that into practice, like this massive lesson that I've learned, that feeling, you know, I'm so excited to see where that can actually take me. I have no idea, but, you know, if it can do that at the games last minute, and I'd only really been doing it a couple of months, I'm so excited to see what that can do for training.
I'm excited to see it too. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So you had this huge experience just like catapult you into this new level of consciousness, right? Or awareness.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you have done or do that is tactical that people can kind of steal from you to get some of this for themselves? Because they're going to hear this and it's going to have an effect on them. But is there anything else that you do on a day-to-day or any sort of basis that keeps you in this mindset?
Do you know what? I change. I look for new tools every single day. I don't think there's ever one tool that works like constantly. Something will work for a certain period of time and then it will run its course and then I'll look for something new. Because I think as humans, we're constantly looking to evolve, and then you can evolve and then you kind of hold, and that's no good to you anymore. And I think to think that there's one answer and one thing to do and you can just do that every day forever and it's going to be awesome is, you know, it's naive. Like, you have to constantly be looking for new ways to evolve. And, you know, I like to read. I like to see what other people are doing and educate myself on, you know, what's working for other people or what's not working for other people. I pay attention to what's going on around me and how people are living their lives, and I've always been like that. I've always really paid attention to what's going on. In the way of some practical things I do, you know, I mentioned how I would write notes on my phone. I've got that little notes app on my phone. I was like, you know what, I've got my phone with me every day I train. And, you know, we've all heard of positive affirmations, and it's a very real thing. You can say it out loud and it works. Like, you can constantly read this thing, and I just thought, I'm going to write down on my phone when times are hard in training. I'm going to write down these little things. This is really motivated kind of things that made me feel really good. You know, like, you're a badass and you work really hard and you know you're a good person and you know you're going to do this and forget your shoulds and whatever. And it was just like, it was just a thing that I had to read it before I would train. You know, I just read it just quickly. It takes a second, and it was like the last thing that I would do. I'd set an intention for my workout. So what do I want out of this particular workout? And you can do that for your day as well. So that's really important. For me, I think one of the greatest challenges for me, but the greatest changes was being honest with myself. Like, you have to sit down and go, like, how can I be better? Like, and that's not just like, oh, I need to be better at handstand push-ups, but like, how can I be better as a person? What could I be doing more? What haven't I done yet? What haven't I tried yet? And be willing to try it and fail. You know, I would rather try something and fail, because in the end, it's never a failure, because then I can cross it off my list and it's one thing I know not to do again. So it's always a success either way. And I always try and look at it in that regard. Then there's obviously the other side, which is funny, and we'll talk about anyway on the nutrition side. I've always been super excited about that, and I love nutrition. And it's funny, I changed my nutrition for the way of sports performance, and I got so much more out of it. And I think you cannot be in good relationships, you cannot hold a conversation, you cannot be a successful business owner or athlete or whatever it is if you do not look after your nutrition. You know, I became a better athlete, but what happened is I became sharper up here. Right. You know, I I could see things clearer. That mental clarity, that became a huge part, a huge thing for me. And that, I think, put me in this more grounded state, like this, I don't know, just more level, more balance. And then everything else just could fall into place because you could see things and you could react to them clearer. So I'm a huge advocate for that change. And it's funny because a lot of people look at it as like, oh, you get shred and then you become really fit. And like, that's totally not what it was about for me.
Yeah, that's why everybody comes in and then they find out all of the other stuff while they're engaged in it, right? So you're totally talking about when you reached out to a D and working against gravity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you reached out, it was purely for sports performance, and then you were pleasantly surprised by all this other stuff?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've always been, I studied nutrition, and I've always been so excited. It's the first thing, like, if anyone says to me, like, oh, I'm experiencing this or that, I'm like, what are you eating? Like, what are you doing with your food? And I believe food is medicine, and I've always believed that since I was a young woman. And I grew up in a household where my mother believed that, and it's just always been really important to me. And I was always really proud, and I wanted to do it myself. And then I was like, you know what? I haven't gotten where I wanted to, like, I haven't achieved what I want to achieve in the way of my CrossFit Games and my training. And I keep seem to, like, just fall short. Like, this is always under. I'm like, I need to make some changes. I'm going to get a running coach because I suck at running. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm like, hey, nutrition is this massive thing. And I see that it's working for people. And I'd heard of a D and I'd heard of working against gravity. I'm like, I'm going to push my pride aside. I'm going to ask this woman for help. Mm-hmm. And obviously she was amazing and came to the table with so much more, just being an incredible person and being that person that I could talk to with things aside from nutrition, which was huge. But it was one of those, what I thought was going to be a 1%, and it was so much more than that.
Wow.
And I went for sports performance and got that, plus 1,000 other things, like, changed my life.
So you studied nutrition. I'm assuming you've done as many diets as I have, which is dozens. You've experimented with a lot of different stuff. What do you think specifically about this approach with working against gravity led to those types of benefits, like the mental clarity and everything else in your life?
So there's two things in separate categories that I think comes down to. A huge part to start off with mentally is that whole, like, accountability thing and knowing that you're making the right choices. For me, I started weighing my food, and I had this person telling me, and I put full trust in her, and I did everything that she told me to do. Absolutely everything, to the gram. Like, I'll unpeel a banana and I'll put it on the scales to make sure that I know exactly what it weighs. And every single day I would wake up and know that I was doing one more thing that I hadn't done before. And I had trusted someone that knew better than me. And that feeling alone, knowing that I was committed, I was doing the right thing. It was like I'd turn up to training every day. And now it was this thing, I was like, hey, this person who's really smart has told me that this is going to be awesome if I trust her. And I did it, and I felt proud of doing it every day. That instantly sets you up. You're like, okay, I feel really good. I've done the right thing no matter what happens. I'm okay. So you get this instant placebo even without the, without the actual response. Then on the other side, it's all about the carbs, man. It's like, it's so funny. Like, your brain works on carbohydrates, and like, you need that. And I found my mood regulated. Like, obviously you go through the hurdles at the start, trying to find, we worked together, and Nadine was amazing trying to get to know me and my body and how it works. And your body takes a little bit of time to adjust. I took that gamble during the Open, which was definitely a huge risk, but so worth it. It was a perfect opportunity for me to test it during a sort of competition phase, I guess. But what happened by eating more carbohydrates was actually just having more energy, and so then just being able to think clearly. Like, my brain was just functioning so much better. I'd always been about that protein and fat, and as we do when we enter CrossFit, and we kind of become more paleo and kind of more towards that side. And it was amazing to actually go, I can eat all this food, and I can eat all this carbohydrates, and and fuel my body and find new ways to educate myself and eat good food. So heaps of fruit and vegetables, and chemically then I just ended up being a nicer person, like just being a little bit more chill,
That's
just
awesome.
like, Yeah, and that in itself, like I said, that was something that I didn't fully bargain for, was just actually being chemically more balanced and just more chill, and then you make better decisions and clearer decisions, and you train better, and then because you train better, you're recovering better. Like everything just sort of fell into place.
Right. I want to touch on the first thing that you talked about. You said it created this like placebo effect. What I call that is, and I'm stealing part of this from my friend Chris Powell, but I call that just building personal integrity, right? Integrity is doing what you say when you say you're going to do it. And we usually think about that in relation to other people and not for ourselves. But when we do what we say we're going to do for ourselves, when we say we're going to do it, we build that integrity. We build this trust in ourselves, which is an incredible feeling. And really, whether it's fitness or nutrition or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's a huge part of what I think everyone is really looking for. They want to trust and love themselves. And that sounds like what a little bit of what you got.
Oh, totally. And it's like, I guess people in general, but like me specifically, I know just speaking, from my own experience, I love the feeling of knowing that I've done a good job at something. Mm-hmm. And when I feel like it's just so satisfying, and I've always been like that, like I don't want to do the bare minimum. And for me to know that I've committed myself to something entirely and that I've put in an effort, it doesn't matter what the outcome is anymore. And it becomes so satisfying to just know that you've worked really hard. Like there is no better feeling, I kind of say to people like, you can be given something and it's like, oh, that's cool. I've been given something and it was free and it's pretty awesome. But there is no better feeling than working really hard and saving your money and going into that shop and buying whatever it is. And just like, you will appreciate and you will love it that much more when you've worked hard for it. And I chase that feeling. And this was just that in a different, I guess in a different capacity, but in such a huge capacity. And it was every day I was just like kicking goals, is going like, yes, I've done it for another day. And I've done it for another day. And then I'd speak to a D in my check-in. She's like, we've done it. That's another week down. And then, my app is telling me you've recorded this and done this for 3 months. I was like, man, I'm good. Like I'm proud of me. And that's such a nice feeling.
Hell yeah. That is awesome. That's really well said. The harder we seem to work for things, the more valuable they become to us.
Totally.
So leading up to the games, 2, 3, 4 times, a D would say, I just got this text from Cara. She says that she feels the best she's ever felt in her life. Can you explain what you felt going into the games?
Oh, yeah. And I was messaging her nonstop. Like, I messaged her at the games. I felt so compelled to tell her because I just wanted to give her the credit she deserved. But like I said, there were so many benefits that I got that I didn't expect to get. And I was training and I'd made all these changes and all of a sudden, like I was okay with it. My mood and like my general self, I was happier. But the recovery was huge. So like I could do these massive workouts and actually recover and not feel beaten down and tired and like I didn't want it anymore. And, I went into the games just feeling so relaxed and so content knowing that I'd done everything that I thought was the best that I could do. Like I did the best that I could with what I was given. And I know that I can say that honestly. And I knew that I had followed my nutrition every single day and I to the gram, like I did exactly what I was supposed to. And I went into these games and I was like in day one and I remember like I did these workouts that normally would have floored me and I was like, I feel good. Like I'm totally fine. I'm not sore. I'm not tired. Like I feel like I've done a workout. Yeah, sure. But I'm ready to go again. And mentally I'm ready to go again. And I would feel myself in the past games just fade every day, just going like I'm fading. And I would, like I could feel myself, oh, you don't want it the same. Every day you want it a little less because like, man, this is really hard. And all of a sudden I was just enjoying this process and felt so good. And I was so appreciative of what I had and like physically just feeling so good and so athletic and everything that I'd been chasing that it just got better and better. And then I looked around the games each day and I watched the people who didn't want it anymore. And I was like, I'm not one of them anymore. Yeah. Like I made this choice and I looked after myself and I'm not one of those people. I want to be here. and I'm sore and tired, but like nowhere near as sore and tired as I would have been. I'm way better than I have been any other year. So I'm ready to go out there, and I know this is going to be amazing because I'm just excited to see, I know what it's done in training. Now I get to test it out in competition.
Isn't it interesting how like all of those girls that you saw kind of resigning a little bit, it sounds like, they still they would love to win the games, but they all of a sudden they're looking into the future and they don't think they can win. They don't believe they can win. And so they resign and end up doing even more poorly than they would have done. Right? Yeah, who knows if they would have won, but they don't do their best because they're so focused on that outcome, and no other outcome means they'll be successful, Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, for me, I was not looking at that end outcome. Like, I went in ready to take a risk, ready to just do my best, and I was like, look, maybe I'm going to do my best and I'm going to fall short. Maybe I'm going to, like I said, I could be dead last. Like, who knows what could happen? I had taken enough risks, I don't know. But there was no way I was going to give up. Like, you can't give up, because of the outcome, because then, like you said, you're going to end up even worse than you were otherwise. I remember I used to do some workouts in, like, little mock games competitions with Rob Forte down here in Australia, and we would have a workout, right? There was something that you just know, like, a bigger dude is going to beat you. So it'd be like a row, for instance. I'm like, okay, this guy's going to beat me on a row. Like, he's bigger and stronger and heavier and no matter what. But I'm not going to let him run away with it. Like, I'm going to make it work for it. And I could be, 1 minute behind, or I could be 30 seconds behind, and then I can make it up somewhere else.
Right.
Like, just because I know that he's going to win doesn't mean that I should quit, because it doesn't take the value away from what I'm doing, And for me, like, putting an effort into every single workout gave me value, like a different kind of value. And, the outcome is not what, in the end, is not how I valued myself. And that's why I say coming second was amazing. And I've tried to get on that podium for a really, really long time. But I realized along the way, and it happened during the weekend, and Sunday morning was that moment where it really happened for me, where I realized that all of a sudden it was more than that. And I had gained so much satisfaction and so much gratification from the whole process, and of what I'd done. It didn't matter in the end. The outcome didn't matter, and it was amazing.
Wow. So cool.
Yeah.
So I almost don't even want to ask this, but I'm going to, because I'm curious if it even popped into your head. Was there a moment where you realized, okay, we've gone through 3 days, I'm right here, I can actually win this thing?
Yeah, I did, and it's so funny. Like, I was always very aware of what was going on, and but I tried to not focus on it too much. So it needed to be on my radar the way you do in competition. Like, in a workout, I know what the other girls are doing. I'm listening out and I'm aware of what's going on, but I'm only going to use it if it's going to value my performance, and if it's going to, for instance, it's like a legless rope climb, and if someone's ahead of me and I'm going to fail, like, I can't use that. I need to block it out. I'm aware of what's going on, but I'm not going to use it because it's going to do something silly. So I was definitely aware of it. I can honestly say I kept my shit together all weekend until the final workout, and I slightly lost it on the final workout, and Matt was behind there with, in the warm-up area with me. And so I had said to him, handstand push-ups and deadlifts haven't come up yet. They're my two weakest movements next to running. So they're the three, right? They hadn't come up yet. And I said to him, I'd done amazing. I was so proud of myself all weekend for how I'd kept it together and how I'd really shown my character. And I was really proud of my character and how far I'd come in 12 months. And I said to him, I need this to happen. Like, I need these deadlifts and handstand push-ups to come up. This is before they announced it. I said, I need it to come up to really test my character now. It's going to come up at the end. Like, this is where it's going to happen. And he's like, let's just see what happens. And I'm like, I need it. Like, I need this to happen. And I went out there and they announced it. And I was like, okay, here it is. I asked for this. Like, here it is. It's on the line. And I know where I'm sitting. And I know what could happen here. I could either move up and win this thing, or I could potentially be thrown straight off the podium. And I'm sitting there doing that. I'm like, I need this. This is going to be the test. This is the test of my character to make this whole weekend worth it. And if I lose it now, like, I'm not going, like, I can't walk away and say that I've done everything possible for this games. And I lost it temporarily. I lost my marbles temporarily. I freaked out. And I'm in the warm-up area and I'm like, he's trying to set up these dumbbells for me for the handstand push-ups because we didn't have parallettes, and I'm freaking out because they don't feel right. And I'm like, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to stuff this whole thing. And I lost it. And he's trying to G me up and he's like, you've got this. You've worked really hard. You've done this before. And I can see in his face that he's scared as hell. Like, he's so scared too. We're freaking out. And he's like, you know, no matter what happens, like, I love you, you're good, like, you're going to be okay. You've worked really hard, you've done this. Gives me the talk. And I'm listening, but I can't fully hear. Like, I can hear him, but it's not soaking in because it's on me now. You know, no matter what anyone says, it's not going to work. Like, it's on you now. And I go out there and I'm marshaled, ready to walk out. And I was like going through my head and I'm trying to find any past experience where I've overcome something like this. And I'm like going to these workouts where I've overcome it. I'm like, you've done this. You've done handstand push-ups when you've done these, you've picked up these kettlebells, you're okay. And you're doing all this. And I'm trying to find these experiences. I'm like, no, this isn't working. This isn't working. I'm trying to do whatever I can. Any tool that I've ever used in the past to get my head right, I'm trying to like draw them out and get ready.
And this is before the workout started?
This is before the workout started. And then I'm like, they line us up at the front there and I run out and I was like, all right, like, let it all go. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It only matters what happens right now and you've got one shot. I'm like, all I can do right now is get myself sorted, forget about the placings and just go straight in, like everything that you've possibly got. You find some kind of aggression and you just go for it. And I went out there and I like walked out and I made a point of like turning out and just facing and just looking at like the crowd, like just soaking up the Coliseum for a second, just look out and go like, and just look down the finish line, just be like, get down there, just focus on the task. What have you got to do? And just go. And it's funny, I just kicked up and then I can't remember a single thing. He said to me at the end of the workout, he's like, how did you go picking up those kettlebells? Like, where did you hold them? And that was something we'd talked about beforehand. I'm like, I couldn't tell you. I don't know what happened. But I went somewhere and I just put everything in and I just got the job done. And that was what I needed to do. And I got myself sorted. Like, I got my head right in the final hour. Like, you know, I read something last year that said a champion comes through in the final hour. And I was like, you need to be the champion. Like, if you want to be the champion, that's not first place. The champion is a person that comes through in the final hour. And
boom.
To me, I did that. Yeah,
it's
like, yeah, it was really good. And I was like, and so I finished this thing, and it's so funny. I finished that workout, and I knew I hadn't won. I knew I hadn't won the games. I knew what needed to be done. And I'm crying, and I'm thinking, everyone thinks I'm sad because, you know, I haven't won or whatever. And I'm like, I'm just so happy. I'm like, I just did it. Like, I just came through in the final hour, and I'm like, to me, like, that's everything. Like, I achieved exactly what I wanted to achieve, and I'm the champion. Like, I'm the winner. Like, and I just couldn't, it was so emotional. Like, it was the best feeling ever. And then that second place, like, seeing I held that place and I got to stand on that podium was just like the icing on the cake. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The champion is not the winner. I love that. That is so damn good. That's so good. So that brings us all the way back to where we started. In my eyes, my greatest achievements this year had nothing to do with my placing. This was just a cool reflection of the hard work. Yeah.
I had Sunday morning of the games. I was like in the warm-up area and I was talking to Maddie and I was just crying. I was like really emotional. I'm just sitting there and I'm just crying and I was just like, I had this moment. I thought I was going to cry now. So I had this moment where all of a sudden I realized that no matter what happened now, that I was okay. Like, I was so happy and content with how far I'd come and what I'd done and what I had achieved, that all of a sudden I could honestly say that no matter what happened in those workouts, as long as I just kept doing what I was doing, I was so happy. And I couldn't even explain it. I was like, I feel like I could be done and they could tell me, you know what, you can't go out for the rest of the workouts. And I'd be okay with that. And I just never even thought that was possible. And, you know, I said to him afterwards as well, 12 months ago, I don't think I could have been happy for Tia winning the games. You know, we're the Aussies and I wanted to be the Aussie to win the games. You know, naturally, I've been working my ass off for years. And for the first time ever, like, I could see her doing well and I was so happy and content in myself that I could be happy for her. And that feeling was amazing. Like, to be able to feel that for somebody else, and, you know, even though you wish it was you, is the most sensational feeling. And to me, that's why I think, like, those things and those feelings that I was able to achieve and that self-growth and development is why, in my eyes, I'm the winner.
Wow.
Or a winner.
Incredible. That's one of the, what you just talked about is one of the, like, main principles of having a growth mindset, right? When we look at other people, someone with a fixed mindset is threatened by other people's success, and they actually wish them harm or wish them to fail. But someone with a growth mindset that knows that in order for me to get better, all I have to do is work and focus on my effort, my attitude, everything that we've been talking about. And therefore we're able to celebrate other people's success.
Yeah.
That's classic.
And it's something you don't even, you can hear the lesson and someone could tell you about it, but it's not until you open yourself up for that, like open yourself up to that growth, and you actually try and grow and it happens. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is what people talk about. This is amazing. Like, this is something like a success that I didn't even expect, but it is the sweetest feeling. It is so much more satisfying to be able to feel like that and to feel like a good person, you know, like that's huge.
Do you have any advice for listeners in terms of being more self-aware, right? You had this huge experience that made you more self-aware. So do you have any advice for people to become more self-aware, as well as glean some of the benefits that you've gleaned over the past year?
Yeah, you need to be really, really honest. That's the hardest part, is you really need to be honest, and like competition, not be afraid of the outcome, but focus on that one little piece at a time. You know, it's just one thing, and it spills over into other areas of your life, but you need to be honest, and you need to be willing to look at yourself and see where you could do better or be better, and not because of what that's going to look like on the outside, but how it's going to feel on the inside. You know, what that's going to do, and it needs to be reflected. It needs to be about what's happening at home and not what is happening on social media or out there in your work or whatever it may be. It definitely needs to be an internal thing, and you need to be able to have a conversation with yourself and have a relationship with yourself. And if you can do that and sit down and spend time doing that, then, you know, you'll definitely be able to move forward. But it's definitely something you have to be honest with yourself. You can't just say it like, you know, for what it looks like on the outside. That's the biggest thing. And that's very, very difficult in the world that we live in now, because everything is so visual. Everything is so, like, things are so staged. You can make things look a certain way very easily. But it needs to be, you know, like, it needs to come from just you. Listen to your gut. I'm going to pass on what my mom said. Listen to your gut. You know, I've got this little picture on my phone. It's like, listen to your gut. It knows what's up. You know, so it's nice. Like there is an instinct, and if you can just be quiet and listen to that, then you're going to be okay. It's simple. There's no magic answer. It's simple.
I'll add to that, and I'm not the second fittest woman on earth, so I'll take this with a grain of salt. But I'll add to that a lot of people have to make space to have that kind of honest time for themselves. That sort of like self-reflection. And I'm sure, like, one of the things kind of in your way, like blocking you from that, was that you were so focused on what you were doing in your life. Like, there was no moment for that self-reflection. And we all go through that at different times in our life, you know. I definitely still go through that from time to time. But when we program in to our lives restoration, relaxation, time with family or in nature or serving others, it gives us this, like, momentary relief where we can actually do that sort of self-reflection. Whereas if we're so focused on being task oriented and being productive, a lot of that kind of thought just we never find time for it.
Totally. It's like you have to nurture the things around you in order, like, you know, for the task to actually be successful. Like, if you're not looking after those little things that aren't such little things, then it's just not going to work. But if you nurture and take the time for those kind of things, you end up, you know, it's like saying, I've been reading a lot of things about mindfulness and about multitasking. People try and multitask and be a hero of multitasking, but end up not really being very successful in any of those tasks because they're trying to do too many things at once. Whereas if you focus on the one task and you get it done, you move on, you got a way better job. It's the same thing. Like, just focus on an element and nurture certain elements and then go and work on the task or whatever it is you need to do. You know, but you have to look after yourself as a person, because otherwise how is that person going to do any good?
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good note to end on. This has been phenomenal. Better than I even expected. I appreciate it. What would you like to send people anywhere to find out more about you? Or keep up with you?
No, I don't think so. You can follow. I usually try and be pretty real and show what's going on in my life on my Instagram and stuff like that. But in the way of other stuff, you know, I kind of keep it kind of quiet. Anything you need to know will be on there.
Nice.
I'm opening a gym, so that's fun. So you can keep up with that and any other shenanigans I've got going on with training and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's probably the best place, I would say.
Awesome. Let's hang out and see if we got any questions. But for that, we're going to close the show out. Thank you. Let's see what we got. You can come say hey while we're answering questions.
Hey!
Oh, hey! How you going?
Good. I just worked out, so I am super sweaty. My hands are like so torn right now.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Hey. I was listening to the end on the way. You're guys getting into some deep stuff.
Yeah, I know,
Cried.
right?
I mean, we cried, we laughed. That's a good show.
I learned some stuff. What was it? The champion's not the winner.
Uh-huh.
It's the guy who comes through in the final hour.
Yep.
I was listening.
Hell yeah.
That's her
so
new
true.
place. Look at the yard.
All I see is a palm tree.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's like I'm just sitting on my deck at home.
Are there like koala bears back there and kangaroos?
There might be some koalas back there, not kangaroos though. there's like kookaburras. You don't have kookaburras, do you? You know
what is that?
Like a bird? You don't know?
No.
They make this, so they like laugh. Their sound is like a laugh, and they do it first thing in the morning. You have to Google it, but they like it. I think it's just an Australian
What's it called
thing,
again?
They're like a kookaburra.
A kookaburra.
Yeah, and they're like, so every morning you can hear them like out the back. It's nice. It's a good way to start the day.
My sister's from Sydney, so I'm like getting with it with the Australian slang. I call my I call my trunk a boot now.
Oh yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't hear heaps once on
Oh
the
my
show.
gosh, heaps! That's when we first started working together. Every single time she was, I'm eating heaps and heaps of carbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I'm really conscious of saying heaps now because every time I come to the US, everyone's like, heaps? What's heaps? So now I don't know, just stop saying it.
I love it.
All right.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions, so I'm going to log out. Everyone watching, thank you for spending the night with us. That sounded weird. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. Hold on.
Where is it? Oh, stop. You stop it?